Carpe's Corner. So happy that you're here. So take a seat, have a tea, or grab yourself a beer. Here at Carpe's Corner, we'll learn about our lives. And in between, you might decide to exercise your rights. It's Carpe's Corner. Carpe's Corner. Welcome to Carpe's Corner. Don't forget reviews. Comment, like, and subscribe is all you gotta do. Here at Carpe's Corner, please appreciate our guests. And just remember, everyone's got something on their chest. In Carpe's Corner. Carpe's Corner. In Carpe's Corner, there'll be no borders. It's Carpe's Corner. We're so glad that you are here.
Welcome to another episode of Carpe's Corner. This week will be slightly different. We won't have YouTube, but that'll be all right. But my guest this week is Zuby. You may have seen him somewhere. I don't know, all over the place probably. But I'm gonna bring him on, and we'll chat about all of the weird things that are going on in the world. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good. Thanks, dude. How are you?
I've had better weeks. We'll just say that. I've had better weeks.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough, man.
So I guess we could just talk a little bit. Do you do YouTube stuff, correct?
Yeah, it's not my primary thing. I do
Right.
YouTube stuff a little bit, but I'm a professional rapper,
Right.
author, coach, public speaker, podcaster. I do quite a lot of things.
You wear a few different hats.
Yeah.
You know, I listened to OK Dude.
Oh, thank you.
When I was in the car, and I have to say it didn't have enough banjo for me. But I mean that's something you can work on. I mean you don't have to cater to exactly my taste. But now I do remember when you got kicked off. It was for just saying "Okay, dude." Is that right?
Literally, yeah, literally. Okay, dude. Ellipsis. ... That was all. That was literally it.
Like, what do you even think when that type of thing happens?
So the suspension happened a week after. So I was totally caught off guard, right? So I was on a train. And I just got an email from Twitter, and it said that your account at Zuby Music has been locked. And I'm like, huh? What's this? I thought maybe it was like, you get phishing scam emails and stuff like that. I thought, okay, this isn't really from Twitter. And then I go to it, and it says, your account at Zuby Music has been locked for violating our hateful conduct policy. And then it had a little overview saying you may not threaten or harass people based on their race, gender, ethnicity, religion, disability, etc. And I'm kind of like, I'm pretty sure I don't do that. Like I'm pretty good at not violently threatening people over their sexual orientation or race. Like that's not really my vibe. I'm kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So I scrolled down through this message, and it said, we found the following tweet violated our hateful conduct policy. And it just literally said, okay, dude. And that was literally what was in the box. So I've still got the email. It literally just says, okay, dude. And I'm like, so at this point, keep in mind, this is a week later. So I don't even, number one, I'm like, wait, how can okay, dude violate? Like, this doesn't make sense. And then also, like, I didn't even remember
like the context of it.
Right. I didn't remember the I'm just like, wait, what? And then I go on Twitter, and I can't go into Twitter. Like I'm locked out of my account. And So initially I was like, this has got to be a mistake, right? And it said, you have two options. You can delete the offending tweet
Right.
and your account will be reinstated in 24 hours. Or if you think we've made a mistake, you can make an appeal. And I'm not a big fan of pleading guilty to things that I haven't done, things I'm not, crimes I haven't committed.
Well,
So I
then
thought,
you're
okay.
obviously not very popular.
So I just made an appeal, thinking like, okay, this has got to be a mistake. Maybe it got caught up in the algorithm or whatever. Maybe someone was trying to, when people mass flag posts or accounts or whatever, just because they
Right.
don't like people. I thought, okay, it's got to be that. And then the next day, I get a notification, an update from Twitter saying, we've manually reviewed this, and we can confirm that this tweet violates our hateful conduct policy. And the only chance I had to get my account back with over 200,000 followers was to delete this highly, highly offensive and evil tweet. This okay dude. So I deleted it. And then, yeah, I mean, in the meantime, hashtag okay dude and hashtag free Zuby started trending on Twitter, which was
Right.
actually kind of cool. And yeah, I mean, I turned that situation into a very positive thing. I made okay dude t-shirts, sold a couple hundred of them, donated a lot of money to charity off of the back of the sales. I got a whole new single and music video out of it, and okay dude has now become it's now sort of become its own
It's a thing now.
Yeah, it's a thing now.
Yeah, so spite funding is I think that's a term that Michael Malice came up with, and I'm a big fan of spite funding. I sort of did that myself with do you remember? Did you see Target Tory?
Target Tour. Yes, I did.
Okay, so I did that campaign and raised like all that money, and that was totally a spite fund thing against that reporter that was trying to get a what was it? It was a electric toothbrush for a penny or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, we see this stuff, and I mean, people have seen what happened recently with me, and you can debate the merits of copyright and all that kind of stuff on Twitter and memes and all that. But what it really does come down to is they suspended me for a meme video, and because it was shared by the president.
Yeah.
And they suspended you for saying "okay, dude."
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we live in this society where you just cancel people for like things like "okay, dude" and for a video of that's making fun of CNN?
Yeah.
Like how do we move forward in this? Because I don't see how it just seems like everybody's just trying to one up each other on how bad of a person they can be.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on what aspect you're talking. Are you talking on a sort of cultural and societal level, or are you talking on a technological level? Because I think that there are different aspects to that. I think that the whole cancel culture thing I think it's quite deep. I think a lot of people view it on a very surface level, on a very surface level, superficial way. But I think it's fundamentally rooted in something very, very deep. I don't think it's not just as simple as like, okay, these social media platforms or whatever. It's like the whole psychology around it is firstly, it's not new, right? Like it's something that's existed for a long time. The same mechanisms that make people want to engage in that type of behavior and mob mentality and all that kind of stuff, and punishing people and ostracizing people and creating heretics and creating blasphemy laws and all this kind of stuff. Like it's fanaticism in a way, and it's ideological possession. It's not just as simple as, and it's also malice, right? It's also malice. It's not just as simple as like, okay, this is something just to do with Twitter or whatever, because this goes way beyond Twitter. This goes beyond social media. We've seen people be, we're seeing all kinds of, people getting fired for doing this, getting fired for saying that, so this person loses their PayPal account, this person can't use banking, etc. So I think it's something that's very, very deep. And what I think that is that, number one, people have become too ideological in a sense, and a lot of people have also just lost any sense of real principles and fairness. I mean that in the real sense, right? Not just supporting what kind of gets your agenda further or your narrative further, and dismissing or trying to get rid of anything that opposes it, and just applying these rules very arbitrarily, whether that's at a company level or an individual level, etc. And I think that's a big problem. I think there's an abject lack of tolerance and compassion, especially from those who claim to be the arbiters of it.
Right.
There's a massive lack of forgiveness and understanding and empathy. All of these things are just broken down on a societal level. It's something that, I live here in the UK. I travel to the US, and I love, I'm a big fan of Western society and culture in many ways. But I think that over the past 5 to 10 years, especially, people are losing and sort of actively even trying to dismantle a lot of the things that make it good and that make it pleasant and that make people kind, etc. And it's all being hidden in this fake mask of compassion or social justice or tolerance or kindness or even liberalism. And it's literally the opposite of everything that it claims to be. This is why you're seeing people call themselves anti-racist, and then they are racist.
And then they defined you by your race.
Yes,
Yeah.
People call themselves anti-fascist, and then they behave in a fascistic way. People call themselves progressive, and then they behave in very regressive and censorious ways, etc. And it's just like everything is getting inverted. It's like society as a whole, not everybody at all, but a big enough minority and a powerful enough minority.
The loudest minority is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And a big problem with all of it is cowardice. I do believe so much of it is cowardice, and that's on different level. That's at an individual level of people who see what's going on and don't like what's going on, but they don't want to say anything because they themselves are worried about getting canceled or,
Right.
facing some sort of online mob or repercussions, etc. And also cowardice at the level of decision makers, whether that's politicians, that's companies, right? Companies themselves just being
Right.
cowards. So if I run a company, I do run a company, but I don't have employees. But if I had an employee and he posted something, I don't know, he posted a joke online that someone found offensive, and then someone's calling me up telling me that I must fire him, right?
Right.
I'll tell them to buzz off. I don't even know that person a response. Just like, go away.
Yeah.
Right. And companies don't want to do this.
Yeah. You hit absolutely on the head. The companies out there that we're seeing bowing to these mobs. I don't know who's advising them, because my advice to every company out there would be, if the mob comes after you, you can't make them happy. There's nothing you can do that will make them go away other than just not listen to them.
Exactly.
But if you and this is the other part, is that, and social media really makes this it just snowballs this whole effect of, the old adage is the squeaky wheel gets the grease or whatever, and social media has created just this giant megaphone for every squeaky wheel. And then it snowballs on top of each other. Because, we make fun of the Karens, but, the Karens are the ones that are on Twitter and on Facebook and all those things. And they're constantly feeding themselves with these things to be mad about. And then, but these companies and the politicians, and this is something that, last week I was talking about, was that we're not holding our politicians accountable, and I know that you're in the UK, and so I'll just be honest, I don't even understand UK politics, how it works and all that stuff. But here in the US, we've had the Senate for 2 years. We've had it for 4 years, and we had both houses of Congress for 2 years, and we didn't do anything. The Republicans, the people that we voted for, just sat on their hands.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to do anything about it. And they'll go and whine and complain on Twitter. But then they'll also just say, this is, we're really sorry about this thing that happened over here. Like, why are we apologizing for things we never did?
Yeah.
Like when there's some news story and it's up on the TV, then everybody has to put out an apology. I'm so sorry. This person that I don't know, never met, never interacted with, said something mean,
Mm-hmm.
and then everyone just has to like get on their knees and be like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I look just like him. I know this must trigger you. I know this must trigger you. I'm so sorry. But tell me a little bit about what it's like over in Europe right now. Like I've seen little bits and pieces of like the news clips, and there's protests and things like that, and riots and all kinds of stuff. But what does the atmosphere look like over in Europe?
Okay. Well, I can't speak for all of Europe, but for the UK specifically,
right.
I mean, look, when the US sneezes, the UK catches a cold. Okay. So the UK likes to latch onto American issues and American ideas and American problems and import them. And whether or not there is a basis for this, pretend we have the exact same problem or that the issue is just as bad. So this has been a great example. So, of course, in the light of the George Floyd being killed by the police officer, which was horrible. But, so there's been protests against the police and police brutality, demanding police reform, et cetera, in the U.S. In the U.S., the police kill over 1,000 people on average a year. This is in total. This isn't saying these are all unjustified. Yeah. Vast majority are justified. But the police kill over 1,000 people a year in the U.S. In the U.K., as far as I'm aware, last year they killed 3 people.
Yeah.
Okay. Of which 2, I believe, were terrorists in the middle of terrorist acts.
Right.
So to pretend to be in the UK, to be in London or in Bristol or whatever, and pretend that we're even dealing with the same issue and the same problem is, to me, it's silly. It's silly. America has certain issues and problems that the UK does not have, or has to a far, far lesser degree. So when you're seeing Black Lives Matter protests in London or in Berlin or in, like Amsterdam, et cetera, right. It's kind of like, okay, I think most of you mean well, but what specifically, like, what's the specific problem you're trying to solve here? Because I think I'm not big on activism. I've never been to a protest in my life, but if I were to protest something, there would need to be a clear demand, or like something clear that I'm talking about here. And I think, there's been some of that at some of them. But generally, oftentimes, it's just like an expression of, I don't know, maybe for some people it's just solidarity, and that's fine. Maybe they're into that, or they think it's this, or they think it's that. But I think if you want it to be useful, and you want it to be more than just an outing with your friends to show how virtuous and, cool you are on social media, then it needs to be focused. And and as soon as people start descending into rioting or looting or fighting the police or attacking random people, then again, that's when my sympathy goes out the window. Because it's like, look, if you want to actually get stuff done, right? If we're actually trying to solve a problem here, then we need to operate within certain bounds. And, we can't just, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
It feels like we're all being held hostage by somebody that doesn't even know what they want. Is that a good description of it?
Yeah, I think it's fair. And I think, and the big problem with it all is it all just gets so divisive. I mean, this is what I said. To me, one of the saddest things about the aftermath of the George Floyd situation, when I looked from a distance at what's going on in the U.S., is it's like for 18 hours, everybody was on the same page.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Everybody was on the same page for a very short period, and that's extremely rare. Actually, that doesn't happen very often.
It was a great opportunity for a moment to come together on something, and it turned into within 48 hours, it turned into just riots.
Yeah.
And then it never came back.
No, and it never. That's the point. It never came back. Now people are talking about statues and Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben and TV shows
Right.
and band names. And, you know, it's like the conversation has just veered off into this weird emotional response of, okay, you know, you've now got celebrities coming out apologizing for things they did 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or,
Right.
oh, sorry, I'm a white woman and I voiced a mixed race character in a cartoon, and so I'm now going to apologize. It's just so absurd.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm looking at it just like, what are you doing? Like, what's this all about? Why are you ripping down a statue of Ulysses S. Grant or like um, George Washington? Like, what's even, like, we know the catalyst, right? And like, I
Yeah.
agree with you. Like, we're all in agreement that the police officer who killed George Floyd needs to be prosecuted and punished. But all of this other stuff, like, what are we trying to do here? And you've got some people who just literally want to dismantle society and abolish the police and overthrow capitalism and create their own weird utopia. And then you've got some people who are a lot more reasonable, who are just like, okay, we just want, you know, more racial justice in the way we see it, or we want this, or, and it's like, but it's all like just muddled together and conflated, and it just kind of comes out as this sort of vomit of stuff. And it's like people don't even know, like, people are angry, people are upset, some people are this, that, but people can't be specific about what it is that they want. Like, I think it would be great if you could sort of, sometimes it's the same way I felt about when I saw like the Women's March in America, et cetera, right? It would be great if
Right.
you could kind of just be like, okay, I am the person you want. Tell me what you want, you
Right.
know? And would they be able to give you a clear answer? And I think in a lot of cases, the answer is no. And if that's the case, then your protest is not being well, it's not being well channeled and being well focused. If it's like, okay, we want this, right? If you look back to the past, look back to the civil rights
Sound
era.
and fury signifying
Exactly.
nothing.
Yeah,
Right.
look back to the suffragettes. Look back to the civil rights era. It's clear, right? It's
Yeah.
clear what they wanted. It's like, okay, we want the right for women to vote. This is why we're protesting. We want the right for women to vote. This is what it is. It's not, we are just generally upset or angry, or, you know, it's not just slogans and you've all got different things on your signs and whatever. Civil rights era, you know, it's like, it's clear. It's justified. It's clear. It's intentional. You're not beating up police officers and looting random buildings, right? It's focused.
Right.
And, you know, I'm very solutions focused. I'm a very solutions focused person. So I tend to look at things like, okay, like, I don't really care about the emotional aspects so much, but what's the way forward, right? Because I agree with you. So go ahead.
Right. No, well, I was just gonna say, yeah, there was, well, in the '60s there was a clear thing. You know, we want to go to school in good
Yes.
schools. We want to be able to eat at the same restaurants that everybody else eats at. We want to be able to sit wherever we want in the bus. You know, all of those things. There was clear benchmarks of if we're making progress or not.
Mhm.
But right now we're looking at a situation where, like, what is the benchmark that you can look at for, like, burning buildings down? Like, what are you expecting the response to be? And then, as you said, with the creep, the mission creep
Mhm.
of this movement, you know, we are into the Aunt Jemima and all of these things. I mean, that's just so stupid just to even
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
that. You went from George Floyd
Yes.
shouldn't have been killed to we need to ban syrup.
Yes.
Like,
Quick,
and
and it happened quickly.
oh, and yeah, and it happened, like, just in a ridiculously short amount of time. And I don't understand it. I can't understand. I don't think there's anyone that understands. They don't even understand it.
No.
Like, if you were to stop and ask somebody, all they'll be able to say is something like, they'll be able to say whatever their favorite slogan is that day. You know, Black Lives Matter or defund the police. But if you ask them more seriously about it, I mean, the first thing that those Chaz people did were like, oh my God, call the police.
Of course.
Like, I mean, like, you realize this is what you're here for. You're here to get rid of the police.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I mean, if you're gonna have a demand, it's got to make sense.
Yeah.
Defund
Like
the police, like, I mean, of all the supposed solutions,
outlaw
like,
rainbow, outlaw rainbows. I mean, like that's just as good of a slogan as far as
yeah,
like
but
feasibility.
this is literally counterproductive, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of dumb. I literally someone because I said something about how dumb the defund the police thing is, and someone like, and this is someone who's being serious, right?
Right.
Not even someone being a troll, and he literally responded, yeah, but if there's no police, well, he said of course it'll work, because if there's no police, then there's no police brutality. And I'm like, yeah, but can you not see beyond that? Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, what level of intelligence am I dealing with here?
Right.
Can you not foresee the obvious problems that will happen if you remove police and assuming that you don't replace them with anything? Like this isn't I mean, I could talk to a 4-year-old who
Right.
understands like what police do, and they could probably tell me what would happen if they, even if it was just a simple, oh well, who will stop the bad guys? And it's like, good question,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
that would be the first. Yeah, okay. So that quintessential tweet is always, my kid came up to me and said, but if we get rid of the police, who will stop the bad guys? That's like a real thing though. Like if I was explaining this to my kids, I've got 4 of them, and I've got a 4-year-old. I could ask my son and say, hey, what would happen if we got rid of the police? Should we get rid of the police? The first thing he'd be, but then who's going to stop the bad guys? But you can't, you can't actually explain this to people because they're like, oh, no, we'll bring in community helpers that, or like,
It's just so dumb. Like, that's the
it's
thing.
like a lack of real world experience or something. Like,
I don't.
have these people literally lived in a basement their whole life?
Yeah, it's so strange because it's just stupidity. That's all I can say. I'm like, look, if you cannot foresee, like, some people can't go past stage one thinking. This is something I've
Right.
realized. I don't try to like diss people or call people dumb or whatever, but over my time, hundreds of thousands, millions of interactions, I've realized that some people can only do stage one thinking. They can't think past, like, okay, stage two,
Right.
stage three, like, what are the potential downstream effects of things? All they can think of is the most basic level. There's police brutality, so if we get rid of the police, there's no police brutality. And it's like, yes,
Yes.
technically, yeah,
It's
yeah, like
it's I
yes,
have a
but
rock, I can drop the rock. But there's no thought of, if I drop the rock right here and it lands on my foot, it's going to really hurt.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Maybe your hand is tired from holding the rock,
Right.
but your
Yeah.
your foot is right underneath it,
Yeah.
and you're just like, okay, well, my hand hurts, so I'm gonna drop the rock, and you're not thinking, of the foot, and yeah, it's a weird thing. Yeah, I don't even know where to go with it. I don't even know where to go with it. Like,
I
the
wanted
past few months, I've just kind of, I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible. I am very optimistic, but I've just lost some faith in humanity in a lot of different ways. Just with it's like every week there's just more stupidity since the pandemic has begun, and all of the misinformation and all of just the random silly stuff that's contradictory, and then this and then that. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with people?
what is next? Where's the next thing? Well, so this sort of, I don't know why this came to mind, but when you go into a store and the escalator's broken,
Mhm.
and they put a sign up and they block it so nobody can use it.
Mhm.
That's what this whole country feels like right now. Like, it's, the escalator stops, it turns into stairs. Just walk up the stairs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you don't have to block it off. You don't have to freak out. But like, we just can't, we can't seem to get over, and I don't want to say get over, because the George Floyd thing was bad, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's not even what it's about anymore.
No, it's not.
And I'm really starting to wonder if it ever was about that. Maybe for the first day,
For a short time. For a
for
short time.
but we have basically professional agitators.
Mhm.
And let me just be clear, I don't I don't know if they get paid or not. But it doesn't matter. They're professional agitators. It's what they do for a living. They don't seem to do anything else.
Some of them get paid. Some of them are in the media.
Yeah. So, whether they're paid or not, I don't care. That's what they are. If they have time every day to go out and protest in front of the White House,
yeah,
then that's what you are. You're a professional agitator. Or if they can just spend weeks in a made up country in the middle of Seattle, I mean that's another whole thing entirely. The Seattle thing. I don't know.
It's like we're living in a South Park episode or something.
It is.
Just like, okay, what's next? Oh, okay, that's.
Yeah, and Stan's dad keeps wandering around getting into fights with Bat Dad. That's where we are right now, and I don't know. I'm starting to think that Matt Stone and Trey Parker are like time travelers or something, because everything they've ever predicted on there has just so I was talking to I don't remember who, but we were talking about how the what's the PC principal? Mm-hmm. PC principal is like the most perfect character that's ever been created, and then Strong Woman is as just as perfect, and those two together just that I remember that they were getting consent forms before they were sleeping with people at the frat, and that was even my mom thought that was funny, and my mom is not a crass person, but she thought it was hilarious. But I had a quick question, sort of going back to what's going on in the UK and stuff like that. But what are race relations like in the UK? I've never even heard of real problems over the last 100 years.
Yeah, most of the problems that we have currently have been imported from the States. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. This whole all of the critical theory stuff, the grievance studies, the identitarianism, white privilege, white fragility, people of color, this, white people, that, all of that bullcrap has been imported from the US over the past decade, especially. And this is one thing that annoys me. It's like we always take the crap stuff from the US, but never the cool stuff. Right? There's a lot of things in the US I prefer than in the UK. But the UK always just seems to take the nonsense and the divisive identity politics stuff and the racializing. Let me call it the racializing of society, right? Trying to force people. No, we've been trying to train people for all these years not to see color, as they say. And now, now colorblindness is bad. Now you must see color and you must treat people differently depending on whether they're a.
It's the other side of the pendulum swing. It's
So I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as the U.S. still. I mean, even the way people talk is different here. So, for example, in the U.S., it's totally normal to hear. People will literally define themselves as Black American, African American, Asian American, white American, etc.
Right.
In the UK, people just say British.
Yeah.
If you're filling out a census form or something, then people might you have to tick the box: white British, Asian British, Black British. But in day-to-day terminology, there's no such thing as an African British person, or people don't say Black British, white British.
I thought that was so wrong for so long that and it's sort of cliche to say it and to talk to people about it, but why aren't we all just Americans?
Yeah.
And the answer, the thing that always comes back is then, you're white, so it doesn't matter that you won't understand why we need to make this distinction. I'm like, well, I am American, so I don't know why we can't all be just one label. And
it's because people thrive off of the division. It's profitable. It's $1 billion industry. Yeah. Right. If you did it, people don't look. There are certain problems people don't want solved. This is a harsh reality of life. There are some problems sociopolitically that it is not in people's interests to actually solve them. So sometimes they will create. Look, why do people do fake hate crimes? Right. Like from whether it's Jussie Smollett or this Bubba Wallace thing or whatever. Right. It's like the demand for racism is
The demand
not,
is exceeding the supply.
the demand is exceeding the supply. So you need to create it where it doesn't exist. Why are people talking about white supremacy now all of a sudden?
Well,
Like,
it's
seriously,
hilarious. That's
wait,
that's
what?
one of the funniest things ever.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of threads on this early on, like in 2017, and I just stopped doing it because it didn't matter. Like people wouldn't be swayed by it. But even like the SPLC only claims that there's like less than 10,000 KKK members, white supremacists, all of those things combined in like the whole country.
Sure.
10,000.
Yeah.
Like if they wouldn't even fill an arena if they all met at the same place. And but you know, if you go look at the news, then they'll tell you that this is the most terrifying thing happening in America. And you know that you contrast that with what are these other groups? I mean, I don't know. This is another part of it is I don't know that there's been a recorded death at the hands of any white supremacist group in decades.
A long time. Yeah.
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 But I mean, we have recorded
that's
deaths
why,
now.
That's why they have to dilute the definition. So when these SJWs and, you know, weirdo progressives now use the term white supremacy, they're not talking about what it used to mean. Right. Right now, they're just talking about, like, you know, a white majority, right? Anything that has white people or shows white people or maybe has a majority of white people in it. Now that's white supremacy, right? And it's just like, and they do this with every term, right? They've diluted the meaning of racism, diluted the meaning of sex, so that these things can never die off because they need them. You know, they need them for votes. Certain race hustlers need them for money. You've got the whole, like, it's the same with some aspects of feminism. Feminism is an industry, right? They need the patriarchy. They need, you know, male supremacy and like all of these things, like whether or not they actually exist or to what degree they exist in the real world, the problem can't go away. You have to keep, the problem has to be there, or you have to invent it, or you have to imagine it. Otherwise, they lose their entire life purpose. They lose their lifeblood. And that's a big part of the problem.
Well, and so I've talked about this before too, is that like the social justice movement, you know, people wonder why is the social justice movement moving towards this new thing or whatever, and they always have to have that dragon. They have to slay. They have that dragon to slay, and they always have to have it. So you know, we moved from gay rights in like in the early 2000s, late 90s, and then you move to now you've got the trans rights. And they're pushing the funny thing is that the social justice warriors are pushing the gay people out now.
They have to.
they push them out at the back end. So like you've circled back on yourself so that you're now you're internalizing the struggle. Now that now the gay people who started the movement are now they're bigots. The patriarchy.
They're the bigots, yeah.
Yeah. And
the original feminists are the TERFs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all just nuts. I mean, you know, just giant meteor 2024.
Yeah, man. The thing is, like, most of the world is still normal, though. That's the funny thing is.
Oh, well, yes.
You know, most of the world, like, these sort of conversations are not even a thing, right? It's just like people are just getting on.
Well, and that's something that's really good that I've sort of maintained is, you know, I've got like this well, I mean, I am who I am. I don't really change myself for like social media, but I live in the world. I'm a dude in Kansas in the middle of the country. I mean, I'm not attending charity balls at night. I'm at home with my kids, and then, you know, I go out on the weekend to a bar or something and hang out. And so I see that like 90% of the people have no idea what's going on.
No.
And it's this 10% that just starts the world on fire. And that's I think it's an interesting thing that's happened with this George Floyd thing, is it brought some of that 90% were like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And then they got dragged into what the social justice warriors were doing. So, you know, I think a lot of the people that came out to protest immediately, they were good people. They were legitimately upset. And then the agitators came in and used that momentum to just rip down the country. And that's just the 10%. Now the 90% is just looking around being like
bewildered.
What's going on? Why is the Wendy's on fire?
Why is Wendy's on fire?
Why is Wendy's on fire? What did Wendy's do? I mean, the drive-through was there, but like we're just burning places down where things happen now. I mean,
I call it emotional incontinence, right? Just
that's a good term.
Just emotions just spraying out in all these directions, and no. And when you talk to certain people, or you're asking certain questions, and it's like, yeah, well, people are angry, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
no,
I'm
you're like, really?
too.
I mean, the amount of people I've had, try to defend rioting and looting to me under the guise that, yeah, well, people are angry, people are fed up, and I'm like, look, I get angry and I get fed up about things. That doesn't mean I can just go and like set my neighbor's car on fire, or like rob a store, or burn down a building, right? Like, I was angry doesn't hold up in court. Like, since when?
There are still rules. This isn't Nom.
Yeah. Or the same with the tearing down statues. I've had conversations about this with people, and they're like, whether or not you think a statue should come down, the way to do it isn't just gathering a mob and just destroying public property, right? That's just not how.
There's a process. There's a process.
Yeah, there's a process. Like, people feel different ways, right? If you could be a very, very strong vegan who thinks that it is totally evil to kill animals and eat animals, like, if you just go and you blow up an abattoir, or blow up a butcher's, then you're going to pay a penalty, right? I'm pro-life. I can't just go and bomb an abortion clinic and kill an abort like that. It's terrorism.
And that's what we're all like dancing around, is that this is all of this stuff is terrorism, and it's lawlessness, and
even if you think it's morally just, it could still things can feel morally just, but
I can disagree. I can 100% disagree with putting up a statue of Hitler someplace.
Yeah,
but let's just say that there's a town that is nothing but Nazis. Mm-hmm. And they all vote to put that statue up there. I can't go to Naziville, and go tear the thing down without paying a fine. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I'd stay out of that town personally.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm not going on a summer vacation there.
You know what? I'm pretty sure that there is somewhere that's kind of like that. It's like it's like a small.
Oh, probably.
I want to say that there is like a very small like village that is essentially like a Naziville.
The sixth Reich or something.
Yeah. It's like very small, and I think maybe like
I don't even know where that would be though. Like
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I might be making this up, but I'm pretty sure I read something about this.
All right. Well, that's where they should be doing their riots. But you know what? I want to respect your time, so I want to thank you for coming on. It's been a good talk, and you know what? We'll see what happens with Twitter. Quickly before we go. Currently, the parents of the children are threatening to sue me, so I've got my attorney all lined up. So we'll see what happens with that. I never thought 3 years ago that I might be in the middle of a high-powered, high-leverage lawsuit over a video of kids running around. So, but that's the world we live in.
Exactly, man. Memes are dangerous.
They are. I really want to thank you for coming on. Thank you, man.
You're welcome, man. No problem at all.
And I'll see you around.
No doubt. Take care.
Yep. All right, guys. Want to thank you guys for joining. Thank you to Zuby for coming on. And we will see what happens with this lawsuit thing. I really wouldn't worry about it too much. This is something that people keep calling me and saying, are you freaking out, or how are you doing? And I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate anybody that calls me and checks in on me. But I think I'm the only one that's not freaking out. So I'm just fine. Twitter is not real life. I have lots of other things I can do. I have lots of other platforms. I have lots of other stuff. Clouthub has given me a spot to live stream, and Parler's given me a place to shout out some stuff. I've got Gab. I still got YouTube for now. They did give me a one copyright strike, so we'll see what happens at it. I got my first copyright strike ever. I feel like a real boy now. I still have Periscope for now. There are some things I can work on with Twitter, so we've got some things going on with that. So we'll see what happens, but nobody's going anywhere, so we'll just take it a little bit slow and figure it out. But thanks for watching, guys. I will see you guys next week. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Next week I will not be doing a show. I will be at Mount Rushmore on the 3rd. President Trump will be there, I believe. And then I will be at a party on the 4th at it's American Priority Party. So I will not be doing a show next week. I mean, it's possible, I guess. If a guest wants to come on, I might do one earlier. So but it for sure won't be Friday. All right, enough ranting from me. Follow me on Clouthub. Follow me on Parler. Follow me on Gab. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Periscope, Twitch, DLive, whatever. Wherever you can find me. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to Carpe's Corner, so happy that you're here. So take a seat, have a tea, or grab yourself a beer. Here